back. I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we're driving a 1970 Ford Bronco with a 302 V8. In 1965, the first generation Ford Bronco graced the world because it was competing with the International Scout and Jeep to some extent. And it came with a 170 cubic inch inline six. A couple years later, the 289 V8. And then in 1969, they dropped a 302 in it. And this 1970 302 has been built up a little bit. It's been rebuilt. We have a proper dual exhaust, and it is mean, making about 350 horsepower. It's mated to a dogleg 3-speed manual transmission. You heard right, 3 speeds. We're just gonna go out and show you how these things drive, because to me, I came from a generation where this car became iconic due to Ben Stiller in Zoolander having a gasoline fight accident where they all blew up. So first, let me show you under the hood. We pull this tab here, then we pop that up, and then we'll pull this tab here. This one clearly upgraded. I assume that there were not originally hood struts on this. If there were, good for you, Ford. That's some premium stuff. But we've got our shiny chrome valve covers on this 302 with the, proper Ford blue wires and distributor cap. Very cool. This exhaust is pretty angry, and when we start it up, I think you're gonna really enjoy this drive. But very simple under here, nothing outrageous. Just a big V8 strapped to a truck. The style, of course, starting to become more and more familiar today because the retro style Bronco that they've just re-released into the world is based on this entirely. So down here, we've got our all-terrain tires and nice disc brakes up front. You can see the suspension work done in here. This one has been lightly massaged in terms of making it a little more drivable. And we've got these nice plastic little guys on the ends to protect. Now, we've got a split hatch here. No struts here. I could use a hood strut here, but these pop up and sit like that. And then this tailgate pops down, revealing very little storage space back here, but that is exactly like the two-door Bronco that we've got today. Back here, you've got 2 seats, but man, there's plenty of legroom. I can't imagine riding in that bench is very comfortable. And of course, you can take this cap off and make this into a essentially open air convertible vehicle, which is why it has this built-in cage. But again, I honestly feel like that's more to save the vehicle than the driver's. And over here in the passenger side, pretty comfortable, pretty big space for your passengers. This got big Defender vibes to me because that's the kind of off-road vehicle I've spent more time in. But this, with its beefy V8 that actually goes down the road when you get into the pedal, is very different than the Defenders that I've driven. Right here, we have our selector for our 4-wheel drive system, and then a Hurst shifter for your dogleg 3-speed. Very cool. Nice, big, fat clutch and brake pedals down there, and a very sensitive throttle. So I say, let's not waste too much time on the walk around. Let's just get out and drive.
But first, today's video is sponsored by Berry House Coffee Roasters. It's no surprise that my first passion in life is cars, but a close second is coffee. Berry House Coffee Roasters has been a family-owned business since 1934, handcrafted in New York, and when I took my first sip of this beautiful coffee, I knew this was a match made in heaven, and it's guilt-free because their fair trade organic coffees are ethically sourced, and they're a strong supporter of green initiatives and women-owned farms. Berry House knows their coffee, and it's no surprise that they're focused on high-quality, premium coffees that are distinct, well-balanced, and delicious when you brew your first cup. So do yourself a favor and make Berry House coffee part of your morning routine.
To start our Bronco, we've got our cute little key. We'll throw that right in the dashboard, and she jumps right to life. Down here, we've got all of our gauges, a big speedo in the center. We've got our fuel gauge, our water temp, our oil gauge does not seem to work, and our battery. But you gotta hear this thing from behind. It's ridiculous. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. To release our parking brake, we pull that, we can clutch into first gear. And away we go. Get some big body roll immediately. want to go fast in, but it is shockingly quick. 350 horsepower or so goes a really long way in this thing, but there's a sense of impending doom just because it is bouncing all over the place, and you know that you cannot make some outrageous evasive maneuver in a heartbeat, or else you're probably going to land yourself upside down. Now you'll notice I did that just to show off kind of where the gearing is. That second to third is a long way to go in terms of the actual ratio. So third gear feels more like an overdrive, and second gear can pretty much get you around town for the most part. Not that you're going to really want to be out on the highway in this thing. I don't know that I really want to do that. This 302 has a lot of low-end torque, which is great. You don't need to rev it out. I genuinely don't know what the red line is. Let's assume it's somewhere around 6,000 RPM. But again, this vehicle is not the vehicle that I'm out trying to go redline, banging through gears. You could, and in a moment of need, it could definitely get you out of Dodge. But I certainly don't feel like I want to be going like 70 miles an hour in this thing on a back road. This is a time before SUVs were like unibodies and all that stuff. This is a truck. This is like a legitimate truck. And, you know, it is wild to me that this style, basically like the idea that a vehicle of this size, of this capability, became the normal driving vehicle of today. Obviously, they don't drive the same. Obviously, modern SUVs are a heck of a lot more forgiving than this. But it is just very strange that, like, people looked at this and was like, yep, that's what I want. That's what I want to drive every day. I'm really struck by just how light the steering is. This is really easy to make inputs to. And there's really not much dead space. There's no dead space. It's just kind of a long ratio. So if you make an input, something does happen, which is nice. That's a far cry from the 48 Willis Jeep that I drove, where there was like, you know, a foot of play in either direction. See, that third gear, it's just so low, it's tempting. It's tempting to go for third, and I guess you could, but you gotta honestly go a little fast, just so you can be in a position where you're not lugging it. Oh man, that's a little frustrating. As a driver, you really just need to be paying attention when you're in this thing, because, you know, it could wander along the road. You've got to be thoughtful about where you're placing this vehicle. Pretty much once you're rolling, second gear does the trick. Oh, but bumps, holy cow. You got to be very thoughtful about those bumps. They are not forgiving on this little short wheelbase. It's funny because in a Bronco today, you can really annihilate corners in a new Bronco. I mean, it's not like a track star or anything like that, but you can chuck it into a corner with a bizarre degree of confidence. That is certainly not how I'm feeling in the first generation. I love that you can hear all of the metal from this chassis and this roof banging around over the bumps. It's a pretty visceral experience. The shifter, man, oh my goodness. I don't know what the springs they used in this thing are, but they are beefy. has no business with this much power. Yeah, this is my normal, like, fun corner. No thank you. Now we're up to speed for third gear, but it's like, you gotta just be really, you gotta just rev out second. My fear in a car like this too is like that dreaded death wobble where the front end just starts to walk on you. I haven't felt it, which I'm thankful for. But this is not a vehicle that I particularly want to experience like 70 miles an hour, and I kind of just want to cruise like this. I'm glad that traffic is slow at the moment. But actually, this is shockingly stable. And there's no vibrations. This is insane. I'm shocked that there's legitimately like no vibrations in the steering. This thing is well damped and well built. Brakes feel fantastic. I would need to live with this for a little while to properly get used to it. But like, this is a good time. And it looks awesome. Oh, that sounds so good. But up to legal speeds, you can really only rip the 1-2, because unless you're going 60 miles an hour down a road that you definitely don't want to be going 60 miles an hour down in a car that handles like this, you're not going for third. Ooh, it's warm in here. All that exhaust temperature coming straight through. Holy cow. So that's a quick drive in the first generation Ford Bronco. This 1970 sort of updated with a rebuilt engine with some extra power and a pretty trick exhaust. But otherwise, I think this is fairly emblematic of what this driving experience would be like if you were to buy one of these. I understand why this style is what was resurrected versus, let's say, the OJ Bronco for the new style, because it looks so friggin' cool. I love the short wheelbase. It's got all the style points going for it, even though it looks a bit like an International Scout. But that's the deal. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Thanks to Bond Group for tossing me the keys to a very different vehicle, not usually in my wheelhouse. And I hope you got something out of it in terms of what the driving experience is like. Don't forget to respect the drive, whether you're driving a Bizzarini or a Bronco, and I'll see you in the next one. If I were to change anything on this vehicle, I think I'd put a different spring on that throttle, because this is a very light throttle. If you bounce, you're kind of bouncing into that pedal. And you know, I'm getting used to this Hurst shifter, but the centering spring on this thing is like a garage door. I mean, geez, man, you've got to actually put some muscle into it. Whereas the clutch pedal, it just feels super easy and it catches nice and low.